Hey guys, this is PJ for the Inverted Podcast, and welcome to podcast number 9. We have a special guest with us today, Colten, which is known around here as Colten the Intern. So the first part of this podcast, we're going to kind of just do an interview with him about the internship at TRC, and then we're going to talk about the church of 2044, when you will be 40 and I'll be 60 dead, or 68. I mean, okay. So Colten, tell us about the internship this summer at TRC.
Yeah, so the internship was something that I didn't necessarily know that was something I wanted, but God kind of just threw it in my face and shut all the other doors and was like, this is where I need you to be. So just take it. And so I had a conversation with John, and he's like, we have this internship opportunity, and is that something you'd be interested in? You know, this is what it would look like a little bit. And it was something that I prayed a lot about and thought a lot about and talked to my parents, and I had other opportunities. I had to talk to them and see what that would look like. So, but at the end of the day, I chose to come here, and it's not something I'll ever regret. So
what surprised you about the internship? I mean, walking in, you kind of had no clue. We kind of gave some, like, okay, here are some of the parameters. This is where you're going to play or work. And then you started. So any surprises along the way?
I think the thing that would have surprised me the most would have been, like, I don't feel like I ever actually came to work. Like,
but you did work.
I did.
Okay. Did you hear that?
I did work. I did work.
No.
I did be productive.
Okay.
But
you were. And what were some of those things?
I made a pickleball court.
You made a pickleball court. Yes.
I planned a whole youth worth of summer.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Share that. Share that.
So that basically, I just made X amount of lesson plans. I planned some fun activities, submission opportunities. And I just got to have fun and kind of do what I wanted. I had a lot of freedom in that, which was super cool to see, because I never really had a youth group growing up. So it was cool to just kind of see a little bit what I've got to see, and then expand on that and kind of make it my own.
That's something we have in common. I didn't have a youth ministry growing up either. And then God called me to youth ministry out of not even knowing what it looked like. And so I love that how it reminds us that he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called and those who are available. You were challenged in this youth ministry side of preparing. How were you challenged in that? In the green room, or in Emma's office / green room, which she's behind the camera now. You know, I don't know if you'd advance. Did you advance and come to this side, or was it a step backwards? Now
on this side of the camera.
Yeah, this side of the camera.
This isn't typically where I like to be, so I don't know.
Yes, and so Emma, we're thankful to have Emma here. Thank you, Emma. It was so. Just peaceful in my heart when I walked up and saw you yesterday around here. And I know you've been like hide and go seeking everywhere, but long story short, coming back, how were you challenged? We were in the green room, and I'm like, okay, so the messages. So what did I challenge you to do?
So John had challenged me to write all the messages, which was something I'd never really done before. I'd never even given a sermon. Like, I'd given one message at youth before. It was like a 10-minute message, and it wasn't like, it was just, a normal message. But I had to sit there and like pray about it and think about a whole summer worth of messages. And so John comes in the office, and he's like, so what are we going to do? And I'm like, this is my second day. You want me to already have it all planned out? And so then he's like, well, what do you feel like the youth need to know? And so we start talking or whatever, and he's like, well, I feel like 1 John would be something, it's kind of where your heart's at. And that's kind of what I needed from him, is he has a lot of biblical knowledge, and that's not something I necessarily have.
Thank you. So can I use that on a future, use you as a future reference that I have?
Yes.
Colten the intern says I have biblical knowledge. That's good.
So
thank you.
He was like, there's 5 chapters, that could be a 5-week series. And so I kind of dove into each book, not each chapter of John, and kind of found what stood out to me and what would have attached to the kids' hearts. And I expanded on that. And then I created a little cheat sheet and kind of passed those out to people that I thought would do good with those. And
you did. And it went off great. And that's one of the things that internships here at TRC we want, not only in the now, but the tomorrows of TRC internships. We want people to own their ministry and their calling and run with it. Yeah, we'll be the guardrails, so to speak, where you can wham, bam, or into them for protection. Yeah. Because ultimately, with my biblical knowledge, I'm accountable. That's not a cut at you. I was just being funny. I'm accountable for that, right? Yeah. And so I was excited to see you taking it and running with it, although you probably question your ability.
Definitely.
But I think, if you look at Jesus, he had the ultimate internship, right? With the 12 disciples. He just comes, they're fishing. They're like, hey, you want to follow me? They're like, yeah. So they get up and follow him, and they learn through the process. It's not a schooling. It's not advancing. One of the reasons I love having you here too, and I told the team this, one of our values at TRC is fun. And so when you put a bunch of middle-aged folk together, you forget to have fun, and you can just stay focused on being busy or doing or what we're supposed to do. But you helped us, and as secrets out, but the reason we did that fun activity is because I kept hearing you come into the office and asking Stacy and Terry, is like, let's go play pickleball or let's go do this. And I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to start having fun here because it's important, because that's what I forget. I can be so in the moment and loving on people that I forget to have fun with each other. So you're the one that initiated that every 2 to 3 month fun activity. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
But you didn't know that,
no, I
right?
didn't.
So you have fun knowledge. While I have biblical knowledge, you have fun knowledge, right? But we want people to run. Like Emma, even by being behind the camera this morning, and she's not an intern. She's part of the staff here, just as you were. But we want her to run with it. It's her ministry. It's her gifting. It's God has given her the mind and the eye and the ear and all that to be able to do the ministry well. And we don't want to get in the way, which brings me to my next question, because I love to be squeezed and kind of held accountable. What would you need? What would you hope this position would have made available to them in the future? Like, what would have made your internship better? As he's thinking about this, of course, questions are, he didn't know these were coming. Actually, 5 minutes before this, It was a whole different podcast. So we're probably not going to do that podcast today, because this is really good. It needed to happen. So what would have helped you? What would you have wanted from us that you didn't get from us?
I don't know, because I feel like something that I really wasn't expecting was how much freedom and control you gave away. Yes. Which I think is something great about this church and this place, is like, it's a college kids are welcomed here. Yes, they're loved here, and they're loved on hard. Right. And so that was something I really wasn't necessarily expecting, that I was granted so much of. And like, I didn't think I was capable, but you believed in me and you knew I was capable. Yes. And so you gave me the ability to do it, and I did it. Right. And now I have this experience, and I know I can, and I can believe in myself in knowing that. Right. And so that was something really powerful to me. But something that I needed, I don't know if there's like something on the top of my head right now.
Would it have been better to, have a weekly meeting together with me or someone else on staff? Would you have liked to jumped in, maybe understanding the budget sides of churches, each person's role? Would you love to jump from maybe ministry to ministry? Or what do you think would be beneficial for this spot in the future? Yeah.
So it also depends though, because I kind of was just like a general intern, you know, if it's more of a worship or production or X, Y, or Z. Right. But I kind of got to get my hands in all the different areas. I got to learn a little about behind the scenes of the podcast. Right. I got to, sit with Terry and learn a little bit about that. Yes. I got to sit with Stacy and learn about literally anything, because she knows everything. I got to know that we actually have a school that's an actual school. It's not just a daycare. And so I kind of got to figure all that out. Not being necessarily like assigned to one person. Right. And so that was super cool. And then just being able to sit in on those conversations.
Yes.
Like the meetings, I was just immediately part of the family. Right. It wasn't like I had to work my way in or anything.
Yes.
I just got to, if I had a question, I could go up and ask, and they knew it was out of curiosity and just wanting to know, and not a accusatory or blaming somebody else for something.
And that's what we desire. And this is the atmosphere that's here. People come in and there's not a judgment of, oh, that's just an intern, or that's just, that's just like a janitor or whatever. We all have major parts into the journey of Jesus here, and we all have a say, because the greatest among you will be your servant. The greatest of you, it'll be at the back of the line. And so I've had some great leaders in my life that have shown me that taking trash is equally as important as taking trash out is equally as important as getting up on stage and speaking, because we're all serving the kingdom in the way that God has called us. And if we ever get above another person, that's where pride enter in. Because here's the thing, Jesus being Emmanuel, God with us, he went way beyond taking trash out. You know what I mean? And he was God. And so I hope that although you learn that that you're equal, at the same time you're above or not below anything. And so what is your one takeaway? If you're placed in the corner, and I know no one puts Colton or baby in the corner, and maybe that is beyond the quote of who's listening to this today, but that was a good movie, but I'm not going to mention what that movie is. No one puts Colton in the corner. So the only way you get out of this corner, Colton, is you have to tell me one thing you took from the internship. What was that one?
So something big actually that, like, going into the internship I didn't know is, so I'm a construction major. That's something that I've been really curious about and wanting to learn. That's my major. It's kind of, I've done some internships in that as well. And so coming into this, I didn't know what my career path may look like after this.
Yes.
And what God necessarily has for my life, whether that's my ministry field or if I need to be something more like this. And so I would say my biggest takeaway was, especially there towards the end, I had a lot of God moments where it was like, okay, like I need to listen. And it's like random people in my life sending me random messages. And then I walk into Sunday sermon and it's connecting. And it's like, whoa there, calm down. And and then it's like my roommate having a conversation with me, calling me out on something I said about what this internship would do for me, and then forcing me to think about it and making me think about what that looks like.
Yes.
And so I still don't fully know, and I don't think it's something I need to know, because I was offered this internship in April, 2 weeks before I started.
Yes.
And so I think I just need to, my biggest takeaway would be to just let God take control, fully abide.
I love that. And Miss Emma is shaking her head up and down, meaning that she either really liked what you said, or maybe she's just in agreement because she has the headphones on and likes how your voice sounds. I don't know, Colton.
Who knows?
But I know it's thumbs up, so she agrees. And I love that, because you're not like, well, I learned how to blah, 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 or I learned how to do this. What you learned is how to hear from God. And that's the ultimate. I mean, this position, that position, that's where we all desire people to get. And then you had the opportunity to come to our first TRC, and Emma was part of that on the screen. She zoomed in, but you were there.
A staff retreat.
Yeah, the staff retreat. Yeah. What did you think about the staff retreat? Your
So,
perspective.
Yeah, so we had our TROC retreat like 2 weeks after staff retreat. If I'm being honest, I was really looking forward to the TROC retreat. I didn't really know what to expect at the staff retreat. I'm like, a bunch of older people, we're gonna just sit and talk, but no, it was super powerful. I was currently dying laughing, but no, like it was super powerful, and I got to hear stories and like these moms and dads of like just real life, like we don't all have it together, and it's okay. We don't need to all have it together. But then also, like, there's people of all different stages of life, whether their kids are off to college or they had a kid 2 months ago.
Right.
Like, and then there's me in college. Like, there was literally all the different kinds in the room. And I think it was just so cool because I think almost everybody cried that weekend.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like God was in the room and you could feel his presence. And then we also got to, John gave us the opportunity to like learn some new skills. And one of those was like Sabbath time.
Right.
And so there was one day he sent us off and we had quiet time for, I think, an hour or so.
Yes. Was that difficult?
Yeah, because quiet is not like something I like to do, but it was super cool to just sit there and be, and like when you shut out all the noise.
I know.
Like
the Sabbath I was so excited to get you guys into that Sabbath moment. Again, it was funny for me because I've seen it work in my life. But when you do it and you're like, hey, go and have your Sabbath. Yeah. I was like, God, you please. This would be very awkward if I go back and I'm like, I didn't hear him. And then you're like, well, maybe I'll just lie. And you're like, no, that kind of is not good to lie about the Sabbath and hearing from God. But God spoke to me too. And to be able to hear from y'all, because you want, as you get older, you want, when you have kids, you want them to experience certain things like, I don't know, Disney World, you want your kids to experience Disney World because it's amazing. But you also, on the spiritual side, you want them to have connections with God and unique connections and hearing from God. And I'll never forget when we came back to share and people heard, and that just like, it made me so happy inside because, again, as a future husband, as a future daddy, the best voice you can hear is that of God's. Yep. I'll tell you what, we're almost finished. I know it's a shorter podcast, but it's a very pertinent, important podcast. What would you tell for those that are like desiring to be part of the internship here or other places? What would your advice be to them? I
would say, like, just first off, pray about it. Like, if that's where God's going to want you, if that is where God wants you, that's where you're going to end up being. Mm-hmm. So just give that control to him. Right. But then also make yourself present. Like, be in the church, just be around, help people, lead people, take out the trash. Right. Even if you're not the intern, you can take out the trash. Everybody can take out trash.
Amen. Why do bags like drip though? I mean, you always got nasty. I like took trash out yesterday and it had like coffee stink on it. I don't know why, but anyway, sorry.
Just run to the trash can. So, no, but I would say just, pray about it. Know that God has it for your life and that it will happen. You can talk to people that have that, that can help you get into that position, but I don't think it's a necessity. I truly think that if God has the will for your life, if you just listen to him and follow him, that it will happen.
Well, I want to thank you again for, being in a place that you had an opportunity to go and have a paid internship somewhere else as well, made more money, probably been closer to home. But you said, you know what? No, I'm staying here. And I remember I was like, I can hear God. And I'm like, okay, God, I totally hear you wanting him to be here. But I'm never going to force anyone, right? And so I remember talking to Taylor and we're like, we see him here. But it's up to what God tells him. And when you came back in and we started sharing and you said that, we were pumped. And we were better because you were with us. Inside conversations about your internship here with people was you were a servant, you were available, and you had that intense energy that were sometimes awkward and probably frustrating more to Taylor, but in a good way because it refined her and it refines us. And Christy and I just enjoyed you, and my kids enjoyed you. So thank you for being available.
Thank you.
Glad you're a part of TRC. And if you want more information about being an internship here at TRC, you can always email info@timberridgechurch.com. Guys, we are so thankful for you. As this goes out, TROC's about to begin this Wednesday. So many things happening around here, but the most important thing I want us to remember is that with all the stuff that's happening, we have to continue to abide and stay close to Jesus and as he guides us and leads us. But we're thankful for you, and we can't wait to see you. Next podcast is this. It's supposed to be this podcast, The Church in 2044, when you'll be 40 and I'll be 60 dead. And so, no, 68. You can cut that out if you want to. It doesn't matter. Y'all have a great week.